I'm Lester Holt.
Howdy, Holtheads. Kurt Money here, alongside my co-host,
Kateline.
And we're here to discuss a Dateline that, while it may be a repeat, it's from season 31. I don't know about you, Kate, but I f***ing love this episode.
This was a good one.
This was a great one. I'm happy to hear you feel the same. I was just taking notes on it, and it was one of those things where it's like, oh my God, the last 10 minutes has like 20 things I want to talk about, right? Like it was interesting front to back. Let me pull up the IMDb real quick. We'll read that. Although there is one reason why we loved it.
So good to see Murph, even if it's not current Murph.
Yeah, so good. And there was a lot of reminders in here of why he rules so much and why we love him.
Just hearing that voice.
Yeah, and him... I sent you pics of it, him talking to the lady in the church, and his setup was so awesome, wasn't it? Looking backwards with his arm over the pew, right?
He could have just sat next to her.
It was so good. I was trying to think, like, am I looking for stuff to say about Murphdog? And I'm going, no, because none of the other hosts would insist on that setup. That's a Murphdog thing. Could you imagine AC doing that move?
No.
Hell no. No way. Murph's like, no, this is good. Let's make it interesting.
AC does a walk and talk.
Yeah. And look, Keith, we love his lanes and stuff, but I don't even think he would do this.
This was just too weird.
Yeah. And what else do we notice about him?
His long fingernails.
His nails were something else. There was a close-up on him, right? They were crazy.
You think he's doing coke?
No. Because they're all like that. I feel like you have a coke nail, right? I feel like if you have one like that, it's because you're doing drug stuff. I think Murphdog just, he's a busy man, okay? He's not thinking about it, I guess. When he's in the makeup chair before an episode, do you think they're looking at those nails and going like, dude, let me just trim them? Do you think they say something or no?
Nah.
They're probably afraid. They're afraid.
Or he's like...
He's been in the game too long.
Or they tell him and he's like, no, I'm keeping them.
Yeah. All right, here is the IMDb. Greeley, Colorado detectives investigate the decades-old disappearance of 12-year-old Jonelle Matthews. Hosted by the dog himself, Murphdog. Yup.
Here's Dennis Murphy.
Oh, wow. Was it great to have him back. Hit me with your first thoughts here, Kate. What'd you think? I mean, we kind of already touched on it, but tell me.
I remember this case. I remember watching this episode when it first aired, but I didn't remember how it ended.
Cool. Okay, so you'd already seen it. I was going to say this episode delivers on what you need out of every episode, which I think is a difficult ask. There's someone you think did it that did not do it in this episode. Am I wrong?
I would argue that the person convicted is the one who didn't do it.
Shut your What? Are you serious? Oh my God, I'm floored right now, Kate. What do you mean? Really?
Oh, yeah.
You don't think he did it?
I have my doubts. And even if he did, I don't know that he should have been convicted.
Okay, interesting. Well, we are on different sides of the fence on this one, because while I agree it's circumstantial, like they're saying the hundreds of things that he did and said in the 20 years since the disappearance, sorry, dude. Even if it's all BS, I'm locking him up and I'm throwing away the key. There's too much. You really? Okay, well, let's get into it. Let's get into this bad boy. Our story begins December 20th.
In the murder capital of the world.
Greeley,
Colorado, which we have seen come up before on the pod.
So many times. Okay, so this is in 1984, but this is arguably perhaps the fourth Greeley or Greeley-adjacent murder we've seen on Dateline.
Yes.
Right?
But this may be, timeline-wise, the first one.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just so funny. Like, you think of all, like, there's a lot in Florida, there's a lot in Texas, there's a lot in Colorado. Most of them are happening in Greeley.
Which is wild, because they said in this episode that at the time of this murder, there were only like 50,000 people in the town. And now there's 150,000.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, still, that's not a lot of people to have this many famous murders.
Absolutely. I got to remind you of one of them. I can't recall all of them because there's so many, but one of them involved the Elvis DJ. Surely you remember the Elvis impersonator DJ.
I do.
He's in Greeley doing his thing.
Elvis was in the house, or at least an impersonator was. George Gray.
So it is a few days before Christmas, 1984. We're with the Matthews family. The mom is out of town, and the dad is doing double duty. He's got to take the one daughter to her basketball game, and then the other daughter, Jonelle, who's younger, 12 years old, to a Christmas concert where she's singing. So he goes to the 16-year-old daughter's basketball game, and Jonelle catches a ride to and from the Christmas concert with her friend. And after the concert, Jonelle gets home about 8:30. And how's this drop-off go?
The dad of her friend drops her off, and they both watch her walk into the house through the garage door, which has been left open.
Which is weird.
It's unusual.
Yeah.
But she doesn't seem to think it's unusual because she walks right in, and then she enters the house from the garage and then flicks the lights on and off to show that she's inside safely. And then her friend and her friend's dad drive away.
Jonelle ran into the house through the garage and gave her secret signal.
And that friend, I forget the friend's name, but you know I don't forget the friend's dad's name, because his name is Russ Ross. That's a great name.
Russ Ross?
Russ Ross.
Russ Ross.
Jonelle hopped in a pickup with Deanna and her dad, Russ Ross.
And I was thinking when they said that, I said, boy, I really hope he's somebody's boss so that I can say that part on air too. And what happens later?
Ross had been boss.
There's a little tease, but he's somebody's boss down the line. Russ Ross, dude's boss. It's good stuff. That's the good stuff. Okay, but it's 8:30, drops him off. Hour later, dad comes home, 9:30. Half hour later, the 16-year-old sister comes home. 10 p.m., they're going, where's Jonelle? Right? Like, the dad had called for her but didn't hear anything, and he just went on wrapping presents and stuff. But it's about 10 p.m. and they get worried. What is that? Jim Matthews is the dad. What's his first move that he does when he says something might be up?
His first move is to call his pastor at their church because he says he was freaking out, and he would go to his pastor for guidance all the time.
Yeah.
And he just did what he always did, which was call him for help.
Yeah, and now that sounds out of context. That sounds suspicious. And believe me, the cops are going to think it. But put yourself, these are what appear to be deeply religious people in the mid-'80s. And they have a daughter who they willingly talk about who can be kind of a hard, like she kind of had an attitude on her. In a good way, of course. So I could see him thinking that she ran out to party or like do whatever she does because she's a little stubborn girl. And so he calls the pastor to be like, what should I do about my daughter? Don't you agree?
Exactly. I agree. This did not seem suspicious at all. It seemed like something I would never do because spoiler, am an atheist. If we haven't made that clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, this seems like it's not the first time that Jonelle had been giving him grief and he was just asking for advice.
Yeah. When Jim got home, the garage door was open and he called Russ Ross up and was like, hey, what happened? And he said, well, the garage door was already open and she went inside. And he's like, well, that's weird because we did not leave it open. Mm-hmm. Now, in the pictures they showed, I did not see that it was an automatic garage door. So I'm trying to remember pre-automatic garage doors. To lock it, you had to like manually twist something when it was closed, I feel. Is that true?
I mean, sometimes there'd be a key, a lock at the bottom.
But that's if a garage door is shut though, before automatic openers, could you just straight up lift them if they weren't locked?
Maybe.
I mean, it just makes more sense of how somebody would get in. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so he thinks that's weird, and this was right off the bat. I'm going, Murphdog is in the house, because he goes. The sister gets home, and Murphdog's talking to the whole fam, and he says to her, "What is the back of your neck telling you?"
Not the hair on the back of your neck.
No.
Just the back of your neck.
He said, "Talk to the back of your neck for a quick sec." What's the back of your neck saying? It's saying, "Murphdog, the hairs are up. The hairs are up." This is why I missed the man. Okay, it's stuff like this.
What was the back of your neck telling you? Anything?
They find like her shoes were kicked off in the living room, and they said like her hose or something was on the couch, which is concerning, but they didn't really talk about like that. What'd you think of this?
I thought they said her. What was on the couch?
Like her, it feels weird saying pantyhose, but like her tights. That's tights. Okay.
Which
tights.
You absolutely would take off as soon as you got home.
Oh, okay.
That to me is not a sign of anything malicious right out the gate, because if you're wearing tights, you're going to kick off those uncomfortable shoes and take off the tights and lounge on the couch and watch TV, which is what she was going to do that night.
Yeah, and they kind of presented the shoes being kicked off there as like a sign of a struggle. Uh-oh.
Kick out.
But I'm with you. No, she's a kid who kicked her shoes off to watch TV. Like, what, do you think she took them off and put them where they belong? get the F out of here. Right?
I'm looking at my floor right now, and I got several pairs of shoes just kicked off.
Boom. Yeah, so none of this looks suspicious. Luckily, the pastor says, call the cops, please.
Yeah.
He said, Jim, I wouldn't mess around with this. Maybe you should call the police.
So they talk about the background with Jonelle and how she had an attitude. And the example that the mom gave, like Jonelle would come in and ask for something. She said, no, Jonelle. She storms back upstairs. She comes back down, asks again. And the mom was like, no, I said no. And she says...
And she stomps up the room and she says, suffer the little children and forbid them not.
Now, what does that mean? I looked it up. It's like a Bible passage. Can you make sense of this? I don't know this. I couldn't, what does that saying mean?
Well, just hearing it, to me, it sounds like she's saying, give me what I want.
Okay. Oh, forbid them not, as in deal with your kids and give them what they want.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty funny. Knowing the context.
I can also see how, now, as someone who has not read the Bible cover to cover, she probably took that out of context.
Yeah.
And spun it so that she could get her way.
And that's what I love and appreciate about it. That's what kind of tells me a lot about her character. Because when I Googled that, the passage is about how, even the people in town who don't have a say in matters, listen to them. That's what it was. I'm with you. It's like, oh, this is a crafty little spin by Jonelle. Right? Throw it back in the mom's face. So that was pretty good. She loved Menudo. We see a poster in her bedroom of Menudo. We talked to Detective Keith Olson, who was called to the scene, and he talks to Murphdog this whole ep. What'd you think of old Keith Olson?
Well, I'm wondering if he's hard of hearing. Because he yelled most of the time.
A little bit. He had a look to him, too. And it was funny because they're talking about Jim Matthews, the dad, and this guy's going, he just wasn't reacting as I'd react. And I was thinking, well, no kidding.
Yeah, no one would.
Because if you were in there, you'd be flipping out or something. Of course, you think he's being chill.
And he wasn't showing you what you'd expect to see?
Right. I mean, he's not showing how I would react if my daughter's missing. I'd be hammering on the table.
Murphdog and Keith do a walk by the house, and Murphdog is like, does it remind you of then? And this is weird. Keith goes, you know what's ironic? It looks exactly the same. There was snow on the ground. He's like, the weather was the same. That kind of threw me for a loop. I thought he meant the houses looked the same, right?
It's Colorado.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Oh, there's snow on the ground. I'm shocked.
The house does look the same. It's still that green color, but the windows are new.
Ooh, good eye.
You know what's ironic is it looks almost exactly the same. We had the same type of weather.
The cops show up to the scene of the crime. There's still no Jonelle the next morning. They're checking out footprints outside the house because, it snows, so they can see footprints. And there's footprints that lead around the house and into the garage that lead to a rake. And then outside, they see that a lot of those footprints had been raked away. Now, this is a good little clue. And the cops sit on this info. This is their thing that they keep in to keep liars out of the news or whatever. They did not tell the reporters about this. What were you thinking about these footsteps?
Well, it's definitely suspicious. Yeah. I mean, the prints, they led to another entrance into the garage, was it? Through a window?
No, I think it was there was probably a door there. Nobody crawled in, but they could tell because of the oil in the garage that someone walked to the rake and then returned the rake to where it belonged.
And then didn't close the garage door after them.
Yeah. So naturally, Detective Keith's first thought is, well, somebody who knew where the rake was. It's got to be the dad, Jim.
No.
And I'm like, dude, what? He knew where the rake was? Where else would somebody keep a rake but in the garage?
And he was looking for anything to use, like a shovel, because everybody has shovels. It's Colorado. It's just he found the rake and used that. But he could have used anything. It's
a real points against the dum-dum who did this because he made more footprints by going to get that rake, right?
Yes.
If he hadn't gotten a rake at all, they could have been well, we don't know what those footprints are. So, anyway, this is just stacked against whoever did this. They think they're being smart, but they're not.
And also stacked against the cops for still suspecting the dad. I mean, what's his motive?
Yeah, great question. They've got two suspects in line. And what's weird is Murphdog's well, of course, you got to look at the dad because of history. But then Detective Keith is well, no, it looked like him a lot. And this is what he's listing. The rake thing, the fact that he didn't react to stuff. So he's of course we had to look at him.
In this case, it wasn't some template. It was there was these outward signs.
Their other suspect is Russ Ross, the last adult to see her alive. Boy, this drop-off that Russ Ross did, I bet he regretted it the rest of his life, that he agreed to take somebody home. Like, he was
But also, I wasn't buying it for a second. It's like they forgot that his daughter was with him the whole time.
Yeah, and they didn't talk to him. They talked to the friend, the daughter of Russ Ross. I have a feeling Russ Ross is no longer with us.
Probably.
But his daughter was saying he was mad, like, look for the real killer, but he understood where they were coming from. And then they call Gloria, the mom, who was like in California, and they're like, I don't know how to tell you this, but your daughter's missing. She comes racing home, and right away they get some news coverage going. Like, there's a citywide search, like 600 people are looking for her, and there's a picture they show where I was like, that's got to be from a newspaper. And then later you could see it was. Do you know the photo I'm talking about where the mom is pinning Jonelle's Christmas stocking to the wall?
Yes.
And the dad is like looking all serious and stuff? That was brutal. There's a lot of like good, in quotes, good, but there's a lot of like news footage of them in the search, and like they did a lot of interviews and stuff. So I suppose I'm saying well done, Dateline, for tracking that stuff down.
Mm-hmm.
We still have hope that she'll be found and that she'll be found safely.
Okay, 3 days after the disappearance, do you think they call in the freaking FBI? This is day 3. They're getting the FBI involved. Do you think the FBI would respond that quickly now? I don't think so. 3 days?
Well, it's a very small town, so they clearly didn't have the resources necessary to work on this case.
Okay, you're absolutely correct there. It was more like they were out of their depth. Let's call in the big boys.
And it probably was the local field office. They're not calling D.C.
Oh.
They're calling Denver.
Yeah. But the FBI shows up, and what's their first move in their wisdom? What's the first move FBI does?
Polygraphs?
Yes, they give a polygraph to the dad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's one thing we've made clear on this show, it's that we think polygraphs should be outlawed.
Yes.
And this is a classic example that I would list when I present my case to Congress or something. When Kurt goes to Washington and tries to get polygraphs banned, I would say, check out this case, because the guy, Detective Keith, goes, and the FBI, you'd assume they have the best polygraphers in the world. And I'd go, wait, it's a skill to be a polygrapher. Don't you see the fault in this system?
Mm-hmm.
If it can tell someone's lying or the truth, it should not be a thing you need to get good at, operating the machine.
And he failed the polygraph, even though
he was found to be deceptive. Yeah.
He told the truth for every question, for every answer he gave.
Yeah.
He told the truth, and yet they said he failed it.
And this I would also bring up, because then Keith I can't call him Keith. Okay, because we already got a Keith.
Mm-hmm.
Detective Olson. There's something about his face where I wanted to give him a first name base, like Detective Keith, because he's kind of crazy looking. Anyway, Detective Olson, he tells Murphdog, that's a lead that needs to be followed up. That's not a lead, bro.
Mm-mm.
That's not a lead. And how do you follow up but continue to ask him questions that you think he's going to lie about? Like, what does that mean?
Tunnel vision.
That's a lead that needs to be followed up on.
So they run with this. He's got to be the guy. That frustrated the hell out of me. And then we meet Ashley Fonts, who is like a former CNN reporter who hosted a podcast on this case. What'd you think of her?
I don't really know why she was in this.
Yeah, and here's what I thought was funny. Now, it was just recently where they talked about a book and didn't show the cover. And I was like, what are you doing? Okay? They said Ashley Fonts, who hosted a well-known podcast about the case. They didn't say the name of it, though.
Journalist Ashley Fonts, who has a well-known podcast on the case.
Which I thought was interesting. And then I Googled it, and I think it's petty, because it was called Vanish in the Snow, and it was a Wondery Presents. Like one of the big dogs in the podcast game. You've heard of Wondery.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that was Dateline going, we're not giving them a push. We're not giving them this or that. Anyway, she did talk to survivors and stuff, but she's another interviewer. I
thought it was strange because if she was even alive when the murder happened, she was barely alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like when they have like a Dateline, do they just call them a correspondent or like a friend of the show because they had done research on it so they didn't have to? Mm-hmm. That's what this was.
Yeah.
Because this lady had like talked to the neighbors and all this stuff.
She did investigations for the police recently.
Yeah. And she says something that we've heard before. She goes, so naturally it was pro forma that he became a suspect. Pro forma.
I'm rolling my eyes.
Oh, yeah. And I looked that up. That just means like it's like the obvious thing. Like it was a matter of fact that he was suspect because of all the obvious clues or something. But she said pro forma. This was interesting So earlier in December of that year, they had just started putting missing children faces on milk cartons. And then what do you know? Right after the murder, there's Jonelle's face on a milk carton now. And we see a picture of the milk carton. Mm-hmm. That's sad, huh?
That's so sad. To be one of the first.
Yeah. I remember that being a thing, like face on a milk carton. I don't think I ever remember seeing a milk carton with a face on it, though. Do you?
We always purchased milk by the gallon.
Same.
We would get a jug. I never had a carton.
You're absolutely correct. That's what we would do, too. We would never a carton.
Mm-mm. And now, no milk at all, because your girl is lactose intolerant.
It's pretty funny, the push that milk had in our childhood. Like, there was the famous ads and stuff. The government wanted us to drink milk so bad. And now, my opinion of it is everybody hates milk. It's no good because of this lactose stuff, right?
Well, I think that milk tastes the best by far. But if I drink it, my ass will explode. And it sucks.
Milk cartons with the faces of missing children first appeared in December 1984, the month Jonelle went missing. A few months later, she became one of those faces herself.
Now, a friend of the fam, this is the one that Murphdog's talking to in the church. And she starts a group called, like, Rescue Jonelle, where a bunch of people, they're handing out flyers and stuff. And she actually reaches out to the White House, finds, like, an administrator of Reagan.
Somehow Eileen got one of President Reagan's advisors on the line and persuaded them to make sure the president mentioned Jonelle.
And what do you know? What happens in March of '85 at a press conference?
He mentions Jonelle by name. And they said that after this broadcast, thousands and thousands of tips were called in. And I'm thinking, why? Why did it take people in Greeley, Colorado, why did they have to hear Reagan say her name before they could be like, oh, I think I do know something?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. So, yeah, thousands of tips roll in. And, like, of course, they've got to track them all down. And this might be why certain things happen later in the case where they don't see something. Because all these tips were nonsense. This is why sometimes cops don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. Like, I wonder if Detective Olson was like, oh, now that Reagan's, like, they're probably like, now there's going to be a ton of calls.
Yeah.
And none of them are going to be worth it.
And they have to run them all down, as we've discussed before.
Yeah.
And it's a waste of time because all of them are bogus.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, most of them are bogus.
Most of them. But I would argue that the one that didn't come from that barrage of tips.
Okay. Well, we got to kick it down the road, but the person we're talking about multiple times called in, though. So.
Yes.
Right?
But it's not a tip if it's, well, we'll talk about it.
Okay. They're following these leads. And cops catch wind of a neighbor, this woman who lived across the street from the Matthews, and her son, Norris Drake, was visiting and said that he might know something. What's the story on Norris Drake? He's struggling.
He's struggling with some drug problems. He's also like a known pedophile.
Yeah, he was known to make it... he was never convicted of being one, but he had told multiple people that he had a thing for preteen girls. Uh-huh. So yeah, he's definitely in the pedo category.
And I think he was a little violent as well.
Yeah, his girlfriend, they talked to his girlfriend, and she said that he threatened to kill her, and he had taken her out in the woods and said, I'll kill you, nobody's going to find your body. And then he took a tree branch and said, this is how I'll get rid of my footprints, and literally shook the snow away, like raked it away with a tree branch. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He sounded good for it at this point. I mean, surely, Kate, you're watching this going, uh-oh.
And the night of the murder, he was there that night and left his mom's house, and he says drove right back to where he was staying at his buddy's house. And he drove his buddy's truck that he had borrowed. Yeah. But then we hear from a friend who was staying with his buddy as well, and she says that he didn't come home until 2 a.m.
Yeah. So there's 4 or 5 hours that are unaccounted for. And now what really makes this put a question mark over this guy is his mom even says he left at 9 p.m. That's literally directly in the middle of when Jonelle was home alone. Mm-hmm. So he leaves in the middle of that hour and doesn't show up again for 5 hours. So again, this has sounded pretty good.
And when the cops ask him, did you go right home? he says, "Oh yeah, because I was in my friend's truck, and he wouldn't want me tooling around in it. He would want me to bring it straight home."
Yeah.
But he didn't bring it straight home, dog.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did, because Dave really didn't like me tooling around in his pickup.
And we should say this is in 89. Okay, this is 5 years later that we're finding out about this. And we see a ton of footage. I mean, they talked to this Norris Drake guy a bunch. Mm-hmm. This is where things become frustrating, because that friend of the friend that was also staying at the house, that was his buddy Dave's sister. This sister talks to the Greeley cops in 89 and says, "Yeah, I suspected his ass back then, and I called a friend of mine at the Denver Police Department." And of course, that never made it back to Greeley. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I mean, she calls a friend on the force or whatever. He doesn't have to fill out a report. But what did Olson say that she read back her statement to him? So that means that, like, if it was, like, do you know what I mean? So either they did take a statement from her and just never forward it, or she recorded, like, she had written down what she called the cops about. Like, don't you agree? This is like the first sign of, like, what's going on here?
Yes. I don't get why she wouldn't just call the Greeley PD.
Yeah.
Because we know, especially back then, jurisdictions, they didn't talk to each other.
In a big city like Denver.
The guy in Denver is like, okay, where's this town?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So finally, Olson and the Greeley crew hear about this. They bring Drake back in and really start to grill him. So much so that they're like, we see, this is great too. They had like a little black box room that Olson was sitting in while he's watching a TV of the interview and pretending to take notes for us. Mm-hmm. You remember these B-roll shots? Mm-hmm. This was great. And Olson's honest. He's like, look, I thought he did it, and he was lying. But eventually Drake leaves and lawyers up. And Olson's so sure of it, he's like, I think I have enough for a circumstantial case. So he like almost, did he present it to the DA, or he almost did? Like, he was like ready to go to trial on this guy at this point. But it does not go through. And sadly, that is when the case becomes cold. For 2 decades, there was a point in 94 where the family had a memorial for Jonelle. And at this point, we're talking to Jim and Gloria. They're still together, it looks like. And Jim was still a suspect through all of this time, right? Like, even in 94, people are still thinking it was the dad. Again, based on pretty much nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, wait! We forgot something about Norris Drake. He had told somebody that he heard, he says from his mom, that a gang of kids had broken in and abducted her and then raked away their footsteps. Another sign of like, what? Why do you know this?
Yeah. Yeah. They also checked the truck that he had borrowed from his friend.
Yeah.
And they didn't find any blood or hair or anything, but it was 5 years later when they did this.
True. They searched the mom's house.
Olson even tracked down the pickup truck that Drake drove that night. But again, zilch.
Okay, so this thing goes cold. And in 2013, 19 years after the disappearance, Detective Cash takes over. This had like seen the hands of different detectives. And this guy, Cash, spends 15 months taking all of the case files and stuff and making like a presentable case about it, right? Like, we see the binders and stuff. He just basically organized everything. And guess what? He comes to the same conclusions. We've got 3 suspects. Jim Matthews, the dad. Russ Ross, the friend's dad. And Norris Drake across the street. Mm-hmm. Now, what's the bummer news about old Norris Drake?
He dies of a drug overdose.
Yeah, he had died in 2007. And it's this point in the app I'm going, well, I fucking hope he didn't do it. We want the culprit alive. It's always a bummer when you're like, oh, this is the guy, and then he's dead. Doesn't that bum you out? Mm-hmm. Okay. They're looking at the case files from 2 decades of stuff. And now, while it was cold, it had switched hands of different detectives through the years. And they find a name that keeps popping up in these files. And that's the name of one Steve Pankey. Now, when I say keeps popping up, what do I mean by that, Kate?
His name appeared several times because he kept reaching out to the police department saying he knew something.
He knew where the body was and stuff. I mean, this guy's begging to get caught.
Why did the cops ignore him every single time?
I don't know. Murphdog says he called in numerous times. The one cop says his name showed up in 2 paragraphs twice. And I just want to go like, every time I'm like, how is it that yet again, the Achilles heel of a case is the laziness of cops not following through on stuff?
And then you just look back through the records and you find your culprit.
Yeah, and we'll see that play out, and it's like, some people say like, your killer's in the case files. You'll find him in the case files. And now when we think about that, it's like, oh, there was a guy that was next door that nobody talked to. But when they look back at this Pankey guy, he won't shut up about this case, will he?
No.
And not just 6 days after the disappearance, which was the first time he called in, was 6 days after. He's going, I know where she's buried, but I'm not doing anything until I have a deal. Like, he wants immunity and stuff. That's how much he's talking about the case.
I think that the cops ignored him every time because they knew he was a Yahoo.
Okay, that I could buy.
They were like, this guy's crazy, and maybe there were other people who were doing similar things, calling in, saying they knew things, and then they didn't. And maybe they thought, there's no way the actual murderer would call us this many times to tell us that he knows something. This makes no sense.
Yeah, when I look at it like that, I suppose he does look like another, like, attention-hungry weirdo, which we see all the time. But now, that also is often the case with the killers. Like, what's his name? Like, we've seen killers go on ride-alongs with cops, and they talk too much about the case. Like, what's that guy's name? Ed Kemper.
Yeah.
So there are those lame weirdos out there. I guess it's just what you're saying, where this guy was too much of an odd duck, that they were like, he doesn't know anything, he just wants to talk.
Right.
But he has connections to the case. One, he belonged to the same church as the Matthews as a custodian, and he was excommunicated. Now, what's that mean? I mean, if he's just a custodian there, they could just say fired. Like, what did they say? Like, you can't be Catholic anymore? Like, I don't get it.
Were they Catholic?
Or whatever it was. I don't know. They were...
Or was it Mormon?
Was not Mormon.
Because I know that Mormons use excommunicated when they kick people out of the church.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you know what? I don't know for a fact it wasn't Mormon. They just never said Mormon. I would have remembered that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting.
It's interesting that he was a custodian and was excommunicated, because I feel like typically that's a member of the congregation who does something bad and then is told they can never come back. But the custodian, unless he was doing it for free, you would just say fired.
Yeah, I don't know. So there's that connection. And then also, what do you know? Panky's former boss was Russ Ross.
Ross had been Panky's boss at a 7-Up distributorship in the 1970s, and there seemed to be bad blood between them.
Here it is. Here it is. What, do you remember what their background was? And do you remember what happened between them?
No.
So Russ Ross, of course, is our other suspect, quote unquote. And apparently Panky hated him because Russ Ross beat him up one time. Sorry, I just...
Sounds like he deserved it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But this also doesn't look good for Russ Ross, who's still in a hot seat, kind of. Right? It's like, oh, you got a temper. Oh, you're beating people up. Oh.
But my argument is, well, wouldn't you beat him up?
Absolutely. Wait till you find out, Holdheads, what this Panky guy gets up to. I mean, this guy, potentially an all-timer for most annoying screwball odd guy in a bunch. Don't you think he gets up to some wild stuff?
He does. He does.
I'm Steve Panky, and I approve this ad.
Okay. Oh, this was cool. So we're in 2013-ish and after that we're talking about this. But they talked to Panky's ex-wife, who was married to him 15 years after them. Like, they were married for a long time after. And she tells this weird story where they had moved to Idaho. He came home from the police station one day in 1999, 15 years later, and he was upset because he was trying to tell the Idaho police information about Jonelle Matthews' disappearance, and they said, get out of here. What is he doing?
This man is not well.
Yeah. I mean, but it's wild to me that he 15 years later is going to a police station in another state and going, let me tell you about this disappearance. I don't know.
To me, that screams he's a crazy man who wants attention.
Okay, guess what it screams to me? Somebody with a guilty conscience who is just trying to find ways to relieve himself of that. Is what I think. Because he does this kind of stuff all the time. If he was what you're saying, he would have done this about other cases too. Don't you think? Like, why is it only the Jonelle Matthews case that he's like, I know something.
Because it happened in his hometown.
Okay. Well, I 100% disagree with you, Kate. I respect your opinion here. I think this MFer did it. And I think this is all leads to me to believe that he did it because of all the stuff he did. Oh, also, he says this to his wife. His wife is like, Jonelle Matthews. She's like, why are you talking about that? And he goes, wait, you don't think I did it right? Because she looked just like you. What? Dude, if you're that wife, what are you thinking in that moment?
You're thinking, I look like a 12-year-old girl?
Hey, look, you know what? We see a picture of her then, of the wife. They do kind of resemble each other. But I've watched cases where the killer goes out and kills girls that look like the wife that he's mad at that night. So I've seen that before. Have you not?
That sounds familiar. Yeah. I mean, look, any motive at this point, I'm like, yeah, a man would do that for sure.
Yeah, you're right. Doesn't take much. But that's so weird for him to do. And then the wife is remembering that the day after the disappearance, he insisted on going on a trip out of town for the weekend. He just up and insisted on it, him and his fam leaving. And then when they're driving back from this road trip in a few days, he's making his wife turn to every news station on the radio to hear stuff about the case of Jonelle Matthews missing. And then he gets home, throws on some overalls, and starts digging in the front yard.
Yeah, but what is he digging for?
Well, the wife doesn't say anything. She must not have watched him the whole time. But the cops take this, years later, the cops take this, and they ring up NecroSearch, which I don't know about you. We party with NecroSearch over FF all the time. Are you familiar with NecroSearch?
I can extrapolate from the name what it is.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
You're finding bodies and digging them up.
I enlisted an organization called NecroSearch to do some ground-penetrating radar to see if there was anything there buried in the front yard.
If this were the backyard, I would maybe think that this was a possibility. But he did it in the front yard where people can see him. He wasn't burying a body. And where was the body, allegedly, the whole time they were out of town?
Hey, good point. Why is he digging? Because he is mentally unwell? Is that why, Kate?
Who knows why he was digging? Maybe he was looking for something. I don't know. Why didn't anyone ask him?
Right. Okay. All right. So NecroSearch does their thing. Don't find anything. Okay. Here we go. Summer of 2019. At this point, Panky is the number one suspect. Thankfully, Jim Matthews is no longer in the number one slot. And then July 15th, a construction worker is out in the middle of friggin' nowhere digging to lay pipe and stuff. And what's he find in there?
He finds Jonelle, and they know it's her.
Why?
Because there are braces on the teeth. And Jonelle had braces when she disappeared, and she's also still wearing the exact outfit she wore at that winter concert.
Yeah. And Murphdog really centers in on the braces thing, and that's a very brutal, chilling sight. Mm-hmm. A skull with braces on. That's so, oof.
And he even says, I feel like we're on sacred, Indian burial ground almost, because this is the place that she was found, and it's in the middle of nowhere. And it's snow-covered and just the saddest. And the fact that she had been there for decades.
Yeah, 30 years almost. And we see pictures of it when they found it, when they dug her up and stuff. And it's just I'm grateful that they dug there. Because if they had been 2 feet to the left or something, they wouldn't have, right? I mean, this was truly in the middle of nowhere. If they hadn't put this pipe there, she probably would have never been found.
This is an insane find, an insane coincidence.
Yeah. They pretty much assume it's her, and they find out it is. I think they do a DNA, or they probably check the teeth against records and stuff.
They said they checked the DNA against her adoptive mother, because she was adopted.
Yes.
So they checked the DNA against her birth mother, because they had that on record.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they confirm it is her. So they've got the body now, and they just keep digging in on Panky because they're feeling like this is their guy. I mean, what do they find out about this guy's past? Right? They move around. He dabbled in work. He was a mortician wherever they moved.
Yes.
I loved Murphdog goes, there are a lot of morticians in the world. There's nothing weird about this. I liked him saying that. Right?
He needed to clarify it because that alone is nothing.
Yeah. And the detective goes, well, I thought it was weird for one.
What do you make of that?
It's weird. He had this proclivity to be around dead people.
Of course, lots of people work as morticians. Nothing weird about that.
I don't know if that's the biz you work in. But, I mean, as far as we know, the only other job we knew he had was custodian. So I guess if he has no qualifications to work around dead bodies, I guess it would be pretty weird.
I would assume he had to go to school to become certified in embalming and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need that to work at a funeral home, though, to be around dead bodies. You don't need to go to school at all.
But to be a mortician.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you need to have some sort of certificate or something. So he's bounced around. He's involved in a lot of frivolous lawsuits. This is where the eyes start to roll, where you get a sense of this guy. And he also ran for office.
He did.
How about this? Dude wanted to be governor.
He wanted to be governor of Idaho. And of course, he was on the Republican ticket.
Of course.
And we see one of his ads.
Oh my God, I loved it.
This guy.
We see he's standing in bitter cold wind when he's talking to the camera. I was like, this was a mistake, number one, in the production of it. And then, he's like, hi, I'm Steve Pank. He wants to, do something with, biblical. The word biblical is part of his thing. And then they play what is clearly a knockoff Walking on Sunshine. You can hear it in the background. I loved it. The video is hilarious.
He was running on a platform of traditional values, the Bible first, that kind of thing.
Together, we can make a safe, prosperous, and moral Idaho.
I love is this when the detective says the WTF moments? The detective says WTF about all this weird shit this guy gets up to. Because, one, he's lying his ass off. He said he had like a criminal justice degree. He didn't have that. Mm-hmm. Like, he's lying about all these things.
Claiming he had a degree in criminology. He didn't. That he's an ordained pastor. He was never.
So the cops are loving this. And they find out that he had been arrested at a bank once for disturbing the peace. What do you think went down here? What was he up to? Like, what made him call the cops and say, help, this guy's disturbing the peace here?
Maybe he was mad that he had no money in his account, or
Okay.
He went to meet about a loan and they denied him.
That's probably what it is. Yeah. He wanted to, like, start his own funeral home or something. And they were like, no, dude, you're too weird, okay? You dabble in work. We see on your resume it says you dabble. We're not into that.
And when he wasn't dabbling, he was filing frivolous lawsuits.
So he disturbs the peace. Now, it's interesting. That case was dropped. But he is on record. He, like, filed a suit that said this was a conspiracy. This was an attempt by the police to get him to give up information on the case of Jonelle Matthews missing. That's what he says this bank thing was about.
Which is crazy because all he ever wanted to do was give up information. So for him to say the cops are trying to make me makes no sense because he's crazy, Kurt.
Yeah.
None of this is real.
Again, I think it's a guilty conscience acting out. This is what I think, and that's my official belief. So I'm going to continue to roast this guy because I think he's a dummy.
Well, he's definitely a dummy.
Wait, okay, so that was the WTF part. I'm looking at my notes here. So when the cops learn this, they show up on Panky's doorstep, and we hear it too. How about this? They it looked like he was in an apartment or something, but they ring the bell, and he's like, you're here at my door? And they're like, yep.
I think he was surprised that they finally came to hear what he had to say.
Yeah. It was like, you're at my door? What do you want? I love it.
Steve, hey, it's Robert Cash with the Greeley Police. How are you?
Are you at my door?
I am.
And what did you want?
He talks to them. I don't know if it was at the house or at the station, but they say it's like a rambling 45 minutes where he goes into detail about how he's bisexual, and there's proof of this on the internet. This was weird too, huh?
Yeah, Kurt, it's weird.
I have a bisexual history. A long bisexual history. You can go on the internet and it's there.
It's either that or the bank part where Murph goes, does that have anything to do with Jonelle Matthews? No, it does not. It was great. Murphdog's having some fun.
What on earth was Steve Panky up to?
They get a search warrant for his place and take his computer. Of course, his computer is filled with searches about Jonelle's case. This is in 2019, by the way.
Yeah.
And at this point, Panky turns it on him, doesn't he? He goes on the news in multiple ways. He tries to get in front of it, right? He's like, own the story. He goes on an NBC affiliate and it's like, he finally spills the beans on what he's known all these years. Do you remember what it was? Like what his hot tip was?
He completely downplays it. It's not a hot tip at all.
He says that his father-in-law was a caretaker at a cemetery and a cop had approached him and said, we need a coffin to put a body in and you need to bury it. And that's all the information that he heard. That's what he said.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with Jonelle.
No, and that is, according to Panky, that's the information he was sitting on for all these years. He had said in that bank case, he said that he thought he'd get the death penalty for knowing where Jonelle's body is.
He feared he would get the death penalty for revealing the location of Miss Matthews' body.
But it's based on this info. Some random cop was like, we need an empty casket to bury a body in the middle of the night. I don't know.
No.
And we hear more. He goes on the defensive, right? He's on the radio saying he blames the Greeley mayor, who happens to be the first, on patrol officer to the scene of the crime at Jonelle's. We talked to him, right? This guy's the mayor of Greeley.
Mm-hmm. You know, I don't find myself speechless very often. I think I was probably speechless that day.
And then he runs for sheriff after he's a suspect at this point, runs for sheriff, and his slogan is, no hanky with Panky. What do you think, Kate?
Terrible. He never wins anything.
No. And they're very clear about that, right?
He did not become sheriff. He did not become governor. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah, he really doesn't. He's arrested and he goes on trial in October of 2020. And you can tell he's in like a glass divider, like a sneeze guard at a subway, and it's because it was COVID time. Mm-hmm. Did you notice what else was weird as hell about this courtroom? It had hella windows. Did you see this? Did you see it?
I guess it did.
And look.
Did it remind you of when we had that guy in the crazy looking suit on the stand? Yeah. And he had windows all behind him?
Yeah, he had windows somewhere because that sun was shining in, really exposing the bubbles. But this was a wall of windows, and now sometimes the curtains were down. But when the prosecutor is up there, those blinds were open, and you see traffic passing. It's not like this courthouse. It was like in the middle of town. I'm telling you, how weird would that be for you to walk by a building and go like, oh, there's a murder trial going on in there?
It seems like a safety issue.
Yeah! Great point! Oh, I didn't even think of that. I thought escape-wise he can hop out. It's first floor, too. It was very much first floor.
He could hop out, or someone could snipe.
Yeah. And the box that he's in talking, like the testimony and stuff, is by the window. By the way, it's on the window side too. So we got a lot of questions. I was shocked when I saw traffic behind him. I was just like, I can't believe this. I can't believe it. Do you think that's a small town thing? Like, was it in Greeley? Like, was it what do you think?
It probably was in Greeley. Maybe it's a small town thing that they didn't really think any of their cases would be big enough to warrant security measures like that.
Right. Oh, wait, I forgot something. We see footage of him getting arrested. We see him getting put in the back of the cop car. He's handcuffed behind his back, but it's using two handcuffs. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's got two handcuffs, one on each wrist, and then those are connected behind him. This guy's not like a huge obese guy. Like, why would they do that, you think?
Were they scared that he was going to do something? They needed extra lockdown for him? Well, apparently not, because they put him next to windows in the courtroom.
Yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, I bet his ass was like, ow, that hurts. I have a pre-existing condition. My arms can't go back that far. I'm going to sue you. So then the cops were like, give us the double cuffs.
Why not just cuff him in the front?
Well, he can't. He'll be in the back car, be able to do stuff. You got to have him behind his back.
Oh, right. This is when they arrested him. I was thinking about, like, prison transfer. It's always in the front.
Yeah, I bet it was only one set of cuffs for that walk, for the perp walk or whatever. Okay, this dude takes the stand like a straight up dummy, and boy, does he sink himself. What do you remember what he gets up to up here? He's like, I've lied so much, you can't believe anything I say. That's what he's saying, right?
Yeah. I thought he had a pretty good defense attorney, though.
Why? Because the point you're making, where it's like, this is all circumstantial. They straight up say this is a guy who's mentally ill and who wants attention.
Yes.
And that's why he's doing all this. And Panky's reasoning for telling the cops that he knew where the body was, he said was an F you to law enforcement. I don't know, dude. I'm not buying it. But
this man's crazy.
Okay, so he's crazy. He's also cruel as hell. He was not asked about how the sex was with his ex-wife, but you can bet your ass he talked about it. Do you remember what he said about his poor ex-wife? He was not asked. He offers up, he says, I told my wife this, that making love to her was an act of mercy, not passion. Ouch, dude. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, this is a godlike Christian man.
Yeah.
These wholesome Christian values once again.
Yeah, and some of those values we heard from the wife again because she's on the stand, and he would like yell at her in the kitchen of like, this is a godly home, you can't listen to the radio, you can't watch TV. But then when they were in the car, he was like, well, we got to listen for news reports.
Obsessively ordering her to find reports about Jonelle on the car radio.
So again, it's contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget, he also said we're living in the end days. Now, I mean, at this point, 2025, I'm going, he might be right, but it's kind of a crazy thing to say on the stand, right?
It is a textbook crazy thing to say.
Okay. All right, well, days and days, the jury convenes, and there must have been a few Katelines in there. They're probably going, look at this guy. He's not well. He's not well. What happens 2 days later? What's the verdict?
It's a hung jury. The judge grants a mistrial, but the prosecution is like, well, we're retrying. We're not even going to debate it.
Yeah.
We're going to do it as fast as we can.
Which is where I'm at. Now, you're thinking good stuff, right? You're like, this is fair. This was a good outcome.
I would have voted the same way. Yeah, there's no evidence.
But I hear you, okay? I absolutely hear you. And I'm not over here, like, mad that you're siding with him on this. I don't know what it is. I'm just like, he's guilty.
Well, the guy sucks.
I keep looking at him talking about it so much because he wants to get caught for it, ultimately. That's what I think it is. And you say, no, he just wants attention.
Yeah, but in the second trial, they have a new witness.
They have two new witnesses. So he does a classic thing He bros down while he's in prison, doesn't he? It's dummy. Love it when they bro down in prison. So they bring in this snitch. What's this snitch have to say?
He says that he and Panky were good friends in prison and they bonded over those good Christian values.
Praying.
They bonded over Jesus and praying. And that one day Panky told him that he needed to pray because he was guilty of something. He didn't really say what it was, but when the friend asked if it was Jonelle, he prayed and nodded his head. That's very vague.
He said it's between me and God, and then he lowered his head and nodded. I mean, this is just one more info nugget on the pile, I suppose. I get that it's vague, but he asked this guy in jail for forgiveness. I mean, I don't know how you pray with buddies, because I'm not into it. But it's weird that he asked this dude for forgiveness, huh?
It is. It is
right?
Weird, like all the other things he does.
Here's the best part. He wises up and says, I'm not testifying now. Well, sorry, dude. We can use your first testimony. So they just straight up play the video of him going, making love to my wife was an act of mercy. Like, I lie all the time. How can you believe me? And we've got another person on the stand. They find an ex-girlfriend of Steve Panky. In 77, they had met at church, and she wanted to break up with him. Probably because she's like, this guy's cuckoo bananas. He says, okay, but follow me out here to this field. He attacks her. He rapes her. She reports him, and the cops say, well, it's going to be a he said, she said case. So, of course, late 70s, she drops it, because it's like, well, I'm not going to go on trial for this, because you know that's what would happen.
Yeah. And I guess they weren't doing rape kits in the 70s.
Well, even if they were, I think the bullshit... I mean, of course I disagree with this, but they'd have been like, it was your boyfriend. Like, you know what I think it would have been a classic, you asked for it, or you guys were... like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of with her that she was like, forget it, I'm not going to do it. But there's a happy ending to this story. She's in there. She takes the stand. She stares this fucker down. Right? She stares him until he looks away. Ah! That was awesome. I was so excited for this ex-girlfriend in 2022 at this trial.
She got her moment.
Oh, boom. She sure did. Guilty of first-degree murder. He can get paroled in 20. I don't know if he'll make it. I mean, hopefully he won't.
No, he won't.
He won't. Now, do you want me to share a link to your petition to get this guy another trial, or?
No. I mean, look, the world is better with him locked up, but I think Drake did it.
Really? You think Drake did it?
I do. He had opportunity. He saw her come home. He went in. He grabbed her, drove her out to the middle of nowhere, shot her in the head, buried her. There was no blood in the car because it all happened in that field.
Well, they didn't find a bullet or shell casings out there, though. So they can't confirm that the shooting happened because there was a bullet in the skull, or there was a gunshot wound. But I guess that doesn't mean anything. He could have shot through her head and picked up the bullet. Is what you're saying happened. I mean, Kate, I gotta be honest. You saying all this stuff, it's making a lot of sense. I mean, he did sound absolutely good for it. Now, one thing I push back on...
What was he doing for like those 6 hours that he was MIA?
4 or 5 hours. I think he was getting drunk and stuff. I think he was... But I'm with you. I mean, look, that's a perfect window to do this. Yeah, I guess. Really, God, okay, you're really... I'm perhaps too stubborn on this to say that you're right and I'm wrong. But I'm hearing you out, and I feel like there could be truth to what you are saying.
He was also a pedophile.
He was vocal about loving the preteens.
And she was 12.
And they even talked about how anyway, I don't want, it's gross, but he liked young girls.
Oh, they talked about how he liked girls who were young but looked older.
Like on the cusp of womanhood or something. Like it was just, ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
And we see Jonelle in the winter concert.
Yeah.
She was that age.
Boy, you're right. Well, you really make me, when I started this up, not for 1 second did I think that we were going to be debating whether he did it or not. But you're making me think twice here. I still stand by that he should be in prison, like you're saying.
He should be. He's crazy.
I don't want him to have a fair trial. He sucks.
He's a rapist, and he's probably done other really terrible things.
Yeah.
But I think Drake did it.
Interesting.
He was literally sitting in his car watching her come home and went over there and did it.
Yeah, and they're saying, how did he know about the rake thing? Now, the only people who knew about the rake was the family and the cops, and the family promised not to tell anybody. Sorry, there's a leak right there, I think. We can't trust the family, keep that to themselves. And this was a small neighborhood. The neighbors could probably see the rake marks. So I don't even think that's a foolproof plan.
But the fact that he did that out in a field with his ex-girlfriend and raked away the footprint, like said he could rake away the footprints. Like, I'm going to take you out and kill you.
And this is why they won't catch me.
Yeah.
Fair. I want to hear what size shoe Pankey and Drake had. I mean, because there were prints that were still, we saw actual footprints.
Mm-hmm. The only time they ever investigated shoes, when they were looking at the dad. None of the dad's shoes matched those prints, but like, how about everybody else?
So I was looking at this case. There was a post about it on Reddit, and somebody in the comments had said that there was this other podcast about this case, and the person who did the Patreon said Steve Pankey was one of his patrons to this podcast about this case.
Because he's obsessed.
That's weird, huh?
Well, he won't be one of our patrons because he's in prison.
That's very true. I was going to say, we love it when Dateline peeps hear us and reach out. Like, for instance, actor Meg Windows. Remember her? Mm-hmm. She follows us on YouTube. No big deal. We've never had a killer or accused killer reach out. I only want it to happen if they're like mad that we made fun of them and we roast their ass. That's the only reason why I want a killer to reach out. Of like, you guys hurt my feelings. And we'd say, good. Right?
Yeah.
What do you think, Kate?
I think about time for those lists.
Beat me to it. What do you got?
Kate's unnamed list. I think there was just one mention of a puzzle.
You're nailing the puzzles these days, Kate. Because absolutely there was a puzzle mention.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It was an absolute puzzle.
That's a boom.
But that's all I had.
Now, I hear what your defense is going to be, but I've got to say, they talked up the small town aspect.
They did.
Big time.
They talked about after the murder, they all started locking their doors like they hadn't done that before.
They were locking their doors. There were parents that were coordinating who's watching which child.
Classic. I mean, that's in your description, is it not?
Yeah. It's just 50,000 people. I mean, this isn't Butte.
Right. The small towns you're talking about are 3-digit numbers only, like 1,000 people or less.
Yeah, no stoplight, just a couple people. But this was bigger than that. Although, do you want me to put it on the list, Kurt?
Hey, listen, it's your list, bro, okay? And I don't want to be some tyrant over here. I will be adamant about the ones that I suggested that you missed. So that's why I'm always ready for puzzle or needles in a haystack, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But small town is your territory, okay? So you do what you got to do.
It's not small enough.
All right. It's out of here. Is that it?
That's it.
On to Kurt's Kick-Ass List.
Kick-Ass List.
Right off the bat, one, we get a Signs of a Struggle mention in the cold open. Like when they do the tease stuff from the podcaster.
It was truly baffling. No sign of a struggle.
I forget if she says it later. Murphdog says no signs of struggle later. We got 2 mentions of signs of struggling in here.
Police found no signs of struggle.
Love it. Murphdog also on the list. When they're talking about the small town of it all, he says, a town from those TV shows in the 50s, Murphdog says. Now, I loved it.
They have this kind of picture of Greeley, Colorado, like the old TV shows from the 50s.
I was wanting them to drop a name. I mean, just say Leave It to Beaver. So I wanted to hear some old obscure show that Murphdog grew up with or something. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I want a taste. I want as many tastes as we can get of what it's like in Murphdog's head.
Yeah, him growing up. Yeah. I imagine him in the classic little kid outfit of like suspenders and shorts and like the pinwheel hat, and he's sucking on a lollipop. Okay, that's going to be the poster for this app. It's the little kid Murphdog sucking on a lollipop. Woo! Well, that's the end of my list. God damn, did it feel good to have Murphdog back in the house.
And he wasn't even really back.
No, and now, apparently, according to TV Guide, next week's episode is new. It says so in the listings. But I feel like the Koberger case was almost like their season finale. They're going to have new episodes through the summer, but I feel like we're going to get in the territory now where it's only one new ep a month or something. What do you think?
Maybe.
So that means it's been a full season of no Murphdog.
We just hope he's okay.
I mean, he pops up on the Talking Dateline, so it's like, I know he's alive, but at this point, I'm just furious at Dateline about lying about it. Like, he's clearly not a part of the team anymore. Like, what is it? So I think that before the next season starts in October, I'll put money on it that he retires. What do you think? I think it's going to happen.
And you think Lester's going to take his place?
Well, yeah, I mean, we know Lester's coming in. That's already a fact.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Oh my God, what if they flipped it? What if Murphdog became the Lester Hull? And then 10 times an episode we hear, I'm Dennis Murphy, and this is Dateline. Wouldn't that be weird?
It'd be amazing.
Oh, God. I'd be okay with that. If Murphdog doesn't want to do the legwork of cases anymore, I get it. But if he does the Lester, he's just got to stand in front of a green screen a few times a week. I would love it. I would freaking love it. Okay. Well, on that note and that wonderful visual of Murphdog as both a Lester Holt and as a little kid, With a pinwheel hat and a lollipop, I'm Kurt Money.
I'm Kateline.
I'm Lester Holt. For all of us, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.